Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Reimagining a Lab, a conversation of sustainable lab practice. I'm your host, Kai-Ting Yue, and I'm thrilled to have you all join us for this important discussion on lab sustainability. The scientific community has been making incredible strides in research and innovation, but one challenge remains critical, reducing the environmental impact of laboratory operation. Today, we will exploring sustainable lab practices from energy efficiency and waste reduction to supplier collaboration and smart technology. Joining us is someone at the forefront of this movement, Stephen Miller, the executive director and the founder of The LabRenew. With over 30 years of experience in energy efficiency and sustainable lab practices, Stephen has been instrumental in helping small life science companies integrate cost-effective and impactful sustainability solutions into their daily operation. Stephen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Great. So let's start with a topic that's getting a lot of attention, intensification. The idea here is to achieve higher research output within the same or even a smaller lab footprint. Stephen, could you elaborate on how this principle can be applied in laboratory setting? What are the key benefits of intensification, both in terms of research efficiency or sustainability?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think from our perspective and our in the experience that we've had, the place to start is to baseline your operations. It's what's your energy use? What's your water use? What's your chemical use? How are you dealing with your red bag waste? What's the cost of the red bag waste? How are you dealing with your equipment stuff? Are you dealing with your fume hood stance position? All that stuff is energy intensive and utility intensive and stuff that doesn't need to go in the trash. So if you can start to roll that back a little bit, that provides you more money to do more research and to do the good work that you're trying to do with a smaller platform. So I think it's really about baselining and then cherry picking those little places that you can make a difference to start with. And typically it starts out being literally around waste, recycling, and red bags, and small little things you can do around fume hood positioning, dial safety cabinet setback, ultra low temp freezer temperature positioning. Those things can really make a difference in lowering your impact on the planet. So, good question. Yeah, we can do
That,
more with less.
That's such an interesting approach. It's great to see like how lab can achieve efficiency without needing like major structural changes. And let's move on to another question here. One of the biggest challenges in implementing sustainability initiative is behavioral change. Energy saving equipment is great, but at the end of the day, it comes down to how lab personnel actually use these resources. What strategy have you implemented to encourage lab team to adopt energy conscious habit, like turning off equipment when not in use or properly manage sashes?
Yeah, I think that what makes LabRenew different than other folks in the community is that I go into the lab. I meet with the lab manager. I meet with the staff, and we walk the lab. And I ask questions. It's like, why is this lab bath on? Was the last time this lab bath was used? Last Saturday. Well, you need to have it on. We want to have it ready. That's great. There's a way to quickly and cheaply automate this stuff. You don't need to have all this stuff. One great example that I like to use is fume hood sash positioning. There are basically three options that you can use to control that. You can go all in on an automated system because we've got a great company that's a friend of mine that it's got an occupancy sensor and it automatically puts the stash in the right position. It senses nobody around. It's all good, automated. Tens of thousands of dollars. Good payback because you're reducing your earthing. The other is another friend of mine in San Diego has a little box that if he doesn't sense anybody around, a light goes off. That's all it is. Just a little flashing light indicator. It's $25. Plug it in, makes a difference. Then my friend Alan Doyle, when he was at the University of California in Davis, came up with a sticker. Costs you $1. Put the sticker on the side that says red, 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 yellow, green. That's where your stash should be. So these are the options. How deep do you want to get into this? Put a dollar sticker up, train your staff, make sure it's in the right position, and you save on the earth. So there's lots of options. You don't, I go back to the waste composting in your kitchen. You don't need to throw everything away. Just step back a moment and look at your actions and say, would I do this at home? Let's make a difference here. So thank you.
It's really encouraging to hear that small action, like training staff, can add up to a significant impact. So let's move on to another question. So the huge component of sustainability is reducing waste at the source. Many labs rely heavily on supplier for consumable, but not all products are created with sustainability in mind. So how can lab effectively collaborate with supplier to ensure that the product they use are environmental responsible? And what role do supplier recycling program play in this effort?
Yeah, I think the important thing to realize at this when you talk about suppliers and your relationship with your supplier is that who's the customer and who's the vendor. You're the customer. You get to say what you want. And if you suggest and insist on your supplier to say, I want you to assess my inventory and I want to limit or stage how I buy things so I'm not overstocked. And then when I send things back to you that you're recycling and you insist on that being in your contract, you're in charge. So take charge of your relationship with your vendor. I mean, so many times you just, they come in and they sell you stuff because they're managing inventory. They got the list they come in, they think you need stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how business has been done forever. But if you step back and say, maybe I haven't touched that in a long time. Do I really need that? Can I share that with another lab? Are there other ways to think about doing that? So I think it's to be able to take charge of the relationship, especially when it comes down to chemistry. There is so much opportunity to move away from toxics to non-toxics and still have the same result in the experiments that you're doing. So I would encourage the exploration. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. So we are seeing a rise in smart technology being integrated into lab. Something such as motion sensor, automated system, AI-driven energy management. So from your perspective, how do these technology contribute to sustainability? And what should lab consider before implementing them to ensure they get the most out of these advancements?
Technology is always going to drive us forward. I mean, when you look at, depending upon your lab and what you have control of and what you're responsible for, from an HVAC perspective, there's so much integrated controls out there that are available. They're so smart and so intuitive, tied into your fume hoods and tied into your air control requirements. That is just amazing. Um, and using outside air and recycled stuff and maximizing the effort that you're trying to do there. But I think that while automation is important, it's automation that you can control and automation that doesn't get you over your head. And so I went back to the fume hood example where you can put a completely automated system when it just does its thing. Is that you really want? I mean, you really want that? Maybe not. But there are things that you can put on. I did a test at a hospital in Boston. We looked at everything on the bench. So everything was plugged into the bench. And so we put in little transducers that took the data of energy use and threw it to the cloud and analyzed it. Went back to the labs after a couple of weeks and said, these 15 things on the bench, here's their energy use over time. And it seems like you can change the way you use this. And you can use these same little boxes and program this stuff on the web. And they're $15, given to you. It's not a big deal. Half of the lab said, that's great. We'll implement a solution. The other half of the lab said, don't touch my stuff. Because I'm in the middle of an NIH grant and I can't change anything. Otherwise, it would influence the output of my experiments. And we get that. We understand that. But there is a way to embrace technology in a way that you're comfortable, that fits in with the way your organization works, and it moves you to a more sustainable platform without basically giving you a headache and enabling you to be a more uh, responsible within your organization. So, and you can do that on your phone.
Sounds good. Moving on to next question. Sustainability is an evolving field, and the life science industry is constantly adapting. So looking ahead, what emerging trend or innovation do you foresee having the biggest impact on laboratory sustainability? And how can lab prepare to integrate these advancements into their operations?
Yeah, I think I got to go back to green chemistry. I think from an energy efficiency perspective, we know what to do. We know about building automation. We know about equipment control. We know about Energy Star. We know about all that stuff. I think in waste management, we know all the tactics we need to take. We know about glove recycling. We know about all this other stuff. I think green chemistry is the new frontier. I think there's a few companies that are out there that are embracing that, and it is a challenge to take that new opportunity into an atmosphere we come out of higher ed. You're trained in a certain way. They do experiments in a certain way, expecting a result that you then document to meet your requirements of whatever it is you're working. So to take that and say, I can't use this, but I'm going to use this, and I think I'm going to get to the same result, it's a challenge. And I get that. But the more toxins we can remove from the waste stream, out of the water stream, the waste places, better activities. So that's what I see. Things like it's in greenhouse.
That's such an insightful take, and it leads perfectly into our next topic. One challenge, especially for smaller research lab and startup, is that sustainability can sometimes feel expensive, but we know that not always the case, like you just mentioned. And Stephen, in your work with the LabRenew project, you emphasize on no cost or low cost sustainability strategy. Could you share a specific example of budget-friendly initiative that lab successfully implemented? And how do these solutions align with financial reality that smaller lab faces?
Yeah, that's near and dear to our heart here. It's just low cost stuff. I'll give you a great example. A couple of years ago, we got involved with a lab up in Gloucester, Massachusetts, near us, and I met with the lab manager at the time over a cup of coffee. He said, Steve, we just don't even know where to start. So we took a tour of the lab and through stuff, and we went into their kitchen. Most labs have a kitchen, common kitchen. They either have on their own or they share with the labs. And you look around, it's like there's no, it's all plastic cups. There's no composting. It's all paper based. So let's step back a moment and take a look at that, how that affects your relationship with your landlord, your relationship with your provider. Let's look at your gloves, the Matrix gloves we use every day. I mean, the ones that are contaminated should go in the red bag, no question. But the ones that are in butter, stuff, people don't say, they don't need to be in the red bag. You can put together a recycling program with your glove provider. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but you're taking them out of the waste stream. And how do you put a recycling program into the lab around plastics? How do you move from plastics to glass? And you use your autoclave in a much better way. Take your minus 80 ultra low temperature freezer to minus 70. There's a ton of information out there that says this has no impact on your samples. And you save 25%. And from my experience, Boston Cambridge, Eversource will give you $2,500 if you do that. So these are things that you can do that are readily benign, if that's the right word, but that helps you build your business case. Helps you build say we can do these things on a small scale, doesn't affect the science, doesn't affect the results, doesn't affect your daily life. It's just a smarter way to go about handling your stuff. The thing about labs, and I'll just leave you with this. Labs use 10 times more of everything compared to any other building type out there. I've been in this stuff for a long time. And the reason I focus on this is that there's so much opportunity to make a difference. If we're going to have a planet for my grandsons to live on, we got to do stuff. And we're here to do that. I appreciate your time.
Stephen, thank you for what you've been contributing to our community. And this has been an incredibly informative session. I know our audience has learned a lot about practical and impactful ways to make their lab more sustainable. Thank you again for sharing your insight and for the work you do. Thank you.
And of course, thank you to everyone who joined us today. We appreciate you taking the time to be part of this important conversation on reimagining the future of sustainable labs. If you found this webinar helpful, give us a like, drop a comment below, and let us know your biggest takeaway. Until next time, stay innovative, stay sustainable, and we'll see you in the next session. Take care.